brown all over it.
I wanted to show you this area around our front door because it's going to have a few changes. These we got with the garden when we first moved here. They look fairly globular from the front, but at the back here, I'll show some footage of that. You can just see brown twigs on both sides. And to be honest, I've never really liked them because the new growth is always this sort of very bright limey yellow. I haven't really, oh here comes Ellie. I've never really loved them. They were, you know, if you wanted to buy something like that, it would cost you a lot of money, so I never felt I could get rid of them. But now they've kind of collapsed a bit, and they've had an attack of box blight, which, although it seems to be recovering from now, has left an awful lot of brown all over it. I have been given permission by the other person who lives here to replace them, and so I'm going to revamp this whole area. On the wall we've got Hydrangea petiolaris. The reason it looks lopsided is because we cut that back really hard because we were having problems with a bit of damp in our hallway, and I was going to do that side as well. I even did some trimming from the top. You wouldn't believe it to look at it. Let me just show you. Let me just pan up and you can see how high it goes. See, it goes all the way to the roof line, and I was hanging out of the middle window up there, which is our landing, to sort of trim either side. Before sort of doing that one as hard as that one, we noticed there was a robin flying around, so we had a feeling it had a nest there, so obviously we left that completely alone, but I haven't seen it for ages now, so I'm sure there's nothing nesting in it now. Then I'll take these out and hope that isn't too hard. I don't think they have very deep roots, and there's a lot of space behind, so it feels like wasted space at the moment. And I've got a couple of ideas of what I'm going to put there instead, but I haven't quite made up my mind. I'm going somewhere tomorrow where I might be able to find something. But I thought I'd show you the before and then show you the during and the after. Oh, you stayed for me. Oh, that's satisfying. Right, so I've saved you the sight of me getting dirty and sweaty again, and I chucked all this back. It was quite a job. The worst thing was the dust. There's just so many old leaves and things caught in it, and a lot of the show you. There were so many old trunks, all twisted and everything, but they were quite brittle. So with a bit of sort of yanking, they would break off, but it took quite a while. This is what I'm left with. So what I'm going to do now, before I get on to the fun planting side of things, I'm just going to clear all this away. I have borrowed one of my neighbour's brown bins, so I can get that in. So I'll do that now. Right, now we get to the more fun part, which is the plants, and I'm putting these hydrangeas in. They're a variety that it's called Limelight. It's quite a well-known variety. They do get quite big. I mean, when I bought these, you could buy, if you had the money, you could buy huge specimens already. And I know that is a slight risk, but I'm going to cut from them, as I cut from anything in my garden that I can put in my flower arrangements. So I think because of that, I'll be able to keep it quite compact. And I wanted to get an evergreen element because the box balls were evergreen. And I bought these to Pittosporum. It's a variety called Golden King. And I didn't intend for this, but I am actually thinking of putting them in the pots because I struggle a bit with growing things. I was just pulling out some pansies. You'd think pansies would do well here, but even they didn't do very well. So I'm going to put these, even though this pot's a bit tatty, it's fine for now. And I'm going to, I think they'll look rather good, and I will put some spring bulbs underneath it. There's a lovely tulip, a green and white one, that's okay in shade that I've grown here before. And I think because we've got the euonymus, the variegated shrub, that's evergreen. And actually, even though the hydrangea will lose its leaves, you can leave if you haven't cut off all the flower heads, I won't cut all of them off, they kind of dry in situ and look quite sculptural. So I think there'll be enough interest from that without putting too many things in. And again, I'll put lots of bulbs around it. So that's the plan. What I need to do first is I might do a bit of pruning, and then I'm going to dig over the soil a bit. Not too much, but just to get out any sort of old roots. And then I've got a whole wheelbarrow full of garden compost, and I'll distribute that on either side and then get on with the planting. Right, I'm just going to make this hole a bit bigger so I can get lots of lovely compost in. I'm adding some enriched biochar fertiliser. What I like about this one, the main reason I use this one is Ellie doesn't try and eat it, which is what she does with the chicken manure pellets. So I'll put a little bit, let's put a handful. And then what I'm going to do, backfill with soil. There's a school of thought that if you put too much good manure all the way round something newly planted, it thinks, oh, this is nice, I'm just going to stay here and live in this compost. I'm not going to put roots out to the rest of the soil. So I did put some in the bottom just because, you know, this soil hasn't been fed for years. But then I'm filling it back with the regular soil, and I'll use the compost more as a top dressing, and then that will gradually work its goodness in, and by that time some of the roots from the plant should be going out into the soil around it. I often find this in my compost, sort of bits that haven't rotted down, they're too big or too coarse. So I just add them add them in again. And some things go round, some things like avocado stones go round several times, but they do break down eventually. Right, I think that looks really pretty there, so I'm going to do the other side now. So exactly the same thing on this side. Nice deep hole. And I'm quite pleased because there are a lot of these climbers have been here for years. I mean, we've been here nearly 20 years and they were well established. So a lot of the area at the back has got those roots, but this area at the front is pretty much free of the weeds. And also I don't mind if the roots at the back do restrict the hydrangeas, because as I said, they are quite a large one. Oh, here's something that really annoys me. You know all that so-called biodegradable plastic? Well, before we knew that it doesn't biodegrade, or doesn't for years and years, it would go through a cycle and I'd realise it wasn't breaking down. So, oh, I'll shred it and then it will break down much quicker. It doesn't. I just got loads of small bits that I have to fish out. I don't know how they can still label it as biodegradable, but it's annoying. And I quite like to really make sure there's contact with the ground. And it's quite a good idea to do that a little while after it's been planted, to do that again. Make sure it's really firmly in the hole. And even though it's just starting to rain, I will give both of these a good water, because you really want the roots to make contact with the soil and then they'll start growing outwards. So I'm going to stop now because it's raining a bit. I don't mind getting wet, but I just don't want the camera to get wet, and I'll plant these 2 pots and I'll tidy up a bit and show you the finished result. So a little bit bedraggled because of the rain, but that's good planting weather, and I'm really pleased with how they look. Obviously they're going to bulk out and get bigger and form a sort of domey shape, so it will sort of mimic the box balls. And as I said, in the autumn I'm going to plant a lot of bulbs around here. And these climbers, they look a bit sad now, but they're already shooting. But I'm going to try and keep them only to the line of the gutter before they go completely mad and take over again. So I hope you enjoyed seeing my mini makeover. Oh, that's very sweet. So that's it from me and Ellie. See you again soon.